The alien sun rose slowly over the jagged horizon, casting red and gold streaks across the forest. Ethan and Tarja moved with renewed energy, their previous challenges behind them. But they knew the greatest test was yet to come. Somewhere in the distance, they could see the remnants of an abandoned alien fort perched on a rocky ridge. That fort was their target, a vantage point that could give them insight into the movements of the enemy mercenaries who had been hunting Tarja. Tarja's leg had fully healed thanks to Ethan's careful attention, and her confidence was returning. She walked with the sure stride of a warrior again, though her eyes kept glancing at the human beside her, a mix of caution and admiration in her gaze. Ethan, for his part, carried only his medkit, ready to treat any injuries that might come their way, but prepared to fight if necessary. As they approached the fort, Ethan studied the terrain carefully. The rocks were jagged, the paths narrow, and the shadows offered hiding places for anyone or anything lying in wait. He paused, pointing toward a path that curved sharply around a cluster of boulders. If we follow this route, we can avoid the main patrols. It's slower, but safer. Tarja gave him a sharp look. You humans are cautious. Maybe too cautious. Ethan shook his head. Cautious isn't weak. Cautious keeps us alive. She'll let the comment pass. She had seen firsthand that his intelligence often saved them in situations where raw strength alone would have failed. As they moved, Ethan pointed out patches of unstable ground, poisonous plants, and hiding spots where predators might lurk. Tarja began to realize that humans had a different kind of strength, one that relied not just on muscle, but on thought, observation, and strategy. The fort loomed closer, its walls weathered and cracked, a silent witness to battles long past. Ethan signaled for Tarja to take cover behind a large rock. He crawled forward, examining the entrance. Signs of recent activity were evident: footprints, disturbed dust, broken plant matter. They're expecting us, he said quietly, but we can still take advantage of their mistakes. I have a plan, but it will require precision and trust. Tarja studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly. I trust you. For now, she said, a faint smirk appearing on her lips. Ethan nodded. That's all I need. The plan was simple in theory, but dangerous in practice. Ethan would create distractions using small devices he carried, setting traps along the corridors of the fort, while Tarja would strike directly at any mercenaries who got past his defenses. It was a combination of alien combat skill and human ingenuity, a partnership that could turn the odds in their favor. As they moved into the fort, the first enemy patrol appeared. Ethan activated a small device that emitted a high-pitched sound, disorienting the mercenaries. Tarja moved with lightning speed, taking down one attacker after another with precise strikes. Ethan used the environment to his advantage, triggering traps that sent enemies tumbling and blocking potential reinforcements. The battle was intense, but the synergy between the human and alien warrior was undeniable. Tarja's strength and combat skill complemented Ethan's intelligence and quick thinking perfectly. He directed her to weak points in the enemy's formation, using his knowledge of tactics to maximize their effectiveness. After what felt like hours, the last of the mercenaries fell or fled. Ethan and Tarja stood amidst the ruins of the fort, breathing heavily, their clothes and armor battered but intact. Tarja looked at Ethan, her expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. You humans are remarkable, she admitted quietly. Ethan smiled faintly. We've just been underestimated for too long. The battle had strengthened more than just their trust. It had forged a bond of respect. Tarja realized that humans were not merely survivors, they were clever, adaptable, and capable of heroism in ways her people rarely acknowledged. And this particular human, fragile in appearance but unyielding in spirit, had proven himself beyond any doubt. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of red and orange, they made their way to the top of the fort. From this vantage point, they could see the valley below, the enemy's main camp hidden among dense foliage. Ethan studied the layout carefully. We can report this back to your people. With this information, they can avoid a direct attack and take the enemy by surprise. Tarja nodded, her eyes reflecting the fading light. You've done more than survive here. You've changed the way I see humans. Ethan shrugged lightly. I've only done what anyone would do to survive and to help a friend. Her lips twitched in a faint smile. Friend, she repeated, testing the word. I didn't expect to use that word for a human, and you might not expect to use it again, Ethan said with a playful grin. Despite the lingering tension from their earlier battles, the moment was calm, almost peaceful. Tarja looked at Ethan, realizing that strength came in many forms. Her respect for him had grown into admiration, and perhaps even a hint of something deeper. She had been proud, independent, and cautious. But she could no longer deny the impact this human had made on her life. Over the next few days, they guided Tarja's people using the intelligence they had gathered, ensuring that the enemy was caught off guard. Ethan's human problem-solving, combined with Tarja's warrior skill, made them an unstoppable team. The enemy forces were defeated not by brute strength alone, but by strategy, courage, and adaptability, the hallmark of human ingenuity. Tarja's people watched in awe as people watched in awe. Ethan demonstrated tactics they had never considered. Using simple tools in ways that turned the battlefield to their advantage, the alien warrior found herself speaking in his defense when others doubted him. Realizing that humans were far more capable than most of her people believed, one evening, after a long day of guiding and planning, they rested near a quiet stream. Tarja allowed Ethan to tend to a minor scratch she had received while scouting. You humans? She began, shaking her head slightly. You're full of surprises. I never thought I'd see one of your kind handle this planet's dangers so well. Ethan smiled, gently applying a healing salve. We adapt. That's what we do. And sometimes it takes more than strength to survive. It takes thinking, patience, and a willingness to face danger head-on. Tarja studied him for a long moment, the weight of her pride balanced by a growing respect. You've proven that humans are more than just fragile creatures. Maybe even more than equals. Ethan looked up, meeting her gaze. We're capable of things others might not expect. And together, we can achieve even more. She allowed herself a small laugh, the sound echoing softly through the alien trees. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust another human like this, she admitted, but you've earned it. The next day, they returned to Tarja's people with the intelligence they had gathered. The victory was complete. The enemy was routed, and Tarja's clan could see firsthand the cleverness and courage of the human who had walked beside their warrior. Tarja stood proudly beside Ethan, no longer hiding her admiration. You've done more than I expected, she said quietly, almost to herself. More than any human should be able to do, Ethan shrugged lightly. I've only done what I had to do to survive and to help a friend. Her expression softened, and for the first time, she allowed herself to show a hint of warmth toward him. Friend, she said again, testing the word. I suppose you deserve that title, Ethan smiled. A simple gesture that carried more meaning than words. They had faced danger, survived impossible odds, and forged a bond that transcended species. It was a victory not only of skill and strength, but of understanding, trust, and respect, the true essence of human resilience. As the sun set over the jagged cliffs once more, Tarja and Ethan stood together, looking out over the valley they had saved. There was humor in their shared glances, respect in their unspoken words, and the quiet acknowledgement that humans, though underestimated, could rise to meet any challenge. Tarja finally spoke, her voice softer than it had ever been. Don't think this means I'll let you touch my back carelessly again, she said with a hint of her old humor. Ethan laughed softly. I wouldn't dream of it. The alien warrior smiled, genuinely this time, a rare and fleeting expression of warmth. In that moment, the bond between human and alien was undeniable. Together they had faced danger, proved the strength of humanity, and shown that courage, intelligence, and trust could overcome even the deadliest threats. And as the stars began to twinkle in the alien sky, both of them knew that this was only the beginning. The world around them was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but they would face it together. The human had earned his place beside the warrior, not just as a healer, not just as an ally, but as someone who had proven that humanity was capable of greatness. Even in the most alien and unforgiving places, in the quiet of the night, Tarja finally allowed herself to rest without tension, knowing that the human beside her would face whatever came next with courage and intelligence. She had underestimated humans before. She would not make that mistake again, and Ethan, calm and vigilant, knew that the respect and trust he had earned would carry them through whatever trials awaited. They had survived, they had triumphed, and in the heart of danger, they had found something more in understanding that crossed the boundaries of species: strength and expectation. Together, they walked forward into the unknown, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, their bond a... Mark woke to the faint glow of the city above, feeling the steady hum of the conduits beneath his quarters. The night had been quiet, almost peaceful, but he knew that today would be far more challenging than yesterday. The sections left to repair were deeper, more complex, and far less predictable. Still, he carried a quiet determination that humans often possess the ability to adapt and solve problems even when the odds seemed impossible. He packed his tools carefully, double-checking everything: portable scanner, energy calibrator, metal braces, and flexible tubing. Every item could make the difference between success and disaster. As he stepped out, the Thaurian leader was already waiting, its luminous skin reflecting the rising light of Varelia's twin suns. "Today, you face the central section," the leader said, its voice calm but edged with concern. "This section is ancient. The pipes are tangled, unstable, and some are unpredictable. Our engineers avoid it. We hope your human insight will succeed." Mark nodded. He had faced unpredictable situations before on Earth, in construction projects and emergency repairs, but nothing like this. He took a deep breath and followed the Thaurian toward the entrance of the central network. The passage narrowed quickly, forcing him to crouch under metallic arches, some bent at impossible angles. Pipes of different colors and materials intertwined in a chaotic tangle. With some sections barely supported by fractured rock, "This is more complicated than it seems," Mark muttered under his breath. He set down his bag and ran his scanner across the pipes. It buzzed lightly in his hands, showing fluctuating energy readings. Unlike yesterday, these pipes didn't just carry one type of energy. Some conduits combined multiple forms, making the network almost like a living organism. He knelt and touched the first pipe. Its vibrations were irregular, almost like a stutter. He checked the markings, which were faint and worn by time. The Thaurians had tried to fix some of the damage, but their approach had been cautious. They feared triggering a collapse or overload. Humans, Mark realized, were valued because they could combine observation with daring experimentation, carefully testing theories instead of avoiding them entirely. Hours passed as Mark methodically tested each section, moving slowly but steadily. He found patterns invisible to the Thaurians, small color variations, heat traces, and vibrations that hinted at the correct path of energy. Some sections required him to redirect energy temporarily, holding flow in check with human-made clamps while he connected the correct conduits. Every success was a small victory, but Mark was aware that a single misstep could destroy all the progress. Midday arrived. The Thaurians hovered nearby, some offering advice, others simply watching. One engineer, younger and less experienced, asked timidly, "How do you know which pipe to choose?" Mark smiled gently. "You watch, you listen, and you test carefully. The answer is in the details. Sometimes it's not obvious, but patience and observation reveal it." The alien engineer nodded slowly, fascinated by the simplicity and effectiveness of the human approach. As he moved deeper, the ground trembled slightly, a reminder of Varelia's recent quake. Dust fell from the ceiling, and several pipes shuddered under the strain. Mark paused, scanning the area. He realized that some conduits were at risk of collapse. Without hesitation, he secured temporary braces, shifting a pipe slightly to relieve pressure. The energy readings stabilized. The Thaurians nearby gasped, impressed at the human's quick thinking. "Your kind sees things differently," one said. You do not fear adjustment. You act. By late afternoon, Mark reached a critical junction where multiple pipes converged in a knotted chaos. He recognized the pattern immediately. This section had caused the previous Thaurian engineers to give up entirely. A wrong connection here could overload the network, creating a chain reaction that would shut down the city above. He studied the junction carefully, testing vibrations and energy flows. One pipe pulsed like a heartbeat, another buzzed irregularly, and a third felt oddly cool. Mark remembered yesterday's lesson. Subtle signs could indicate the correct choice. He observed carefully, noting small scratches and worn markings that hinted at prior adjustments. Taking a deep breath, he connected the first conduit. A wave of energy flowed through the junction, lighting up the pipes with a steady, even glow. Relief surged through him, but he remained cautious. The Thaurians whispered among themselves, a mixture of awe and disbelief. They had never seen a human approach such a complex problem with confidence and precision. Mark realized that his actions were teaching them a new way to think, combining careful observation with action, rather than relying solely on theory. As he continued, Mark encountered a section buried under unstable rock. The tremors had loosened the ground, and shifting it could collapse several pipes. He paused, evaluating the situation. Humans were adaptable. Tools and creativity were extensions of their mind. Using flexible braces and support rods, he stabilized the rock temporarily, creating a safe corridor to lay the remaining pipes. By evening, most of the central network was connected. Energy flowed steadily, and the junctions glowed warmly under Varelia's twin suns. Mark felt a quiet pride he had done what many Thaurians considered impossible. Yet he knew one section remained, a tangled mess of pipes deep in a chamber the Thaurians called the core. That night, Mark studied maps and energy schematics provided by the Thaurians. He noticed inconsistencies in prior readings and small gaps in the network that suggested hidden damage. The core, he realized, would require not just skill, but intuition and improvisation. Humans were few in number, but their ability to think creatively in uncertain situations often gave them an edge, and Mark was about to prove it once again. The next morning, he entered the core. The chamber was immense, cavernous, and filled with pipes of every size and color imaginable. Some glowed faintly. Others were dull and unresponsive. Dust and debris hung in the air, and the hum of energy was irregular, almost like a heartbeat struggling to stabilize. Mark took a deep breath and began his methodical approach. Observe. Test, adjust, and connect. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional thrum of energy and Mark's quiet muttering as he calculated connections. One by one, he connected the pipes, constantly monitoring flow, temperature, and vibration. He tested each conduit multiple times, ensuring that no overload or misalignment could occur. Around midday, the ground trembled sharply. A section of pipe threatened to collapse. Mark acted instinctively, bracing it with support rods and using flexible tubing to reroute energy temporarily. The flow stabilized, and the Thaurians watching from a distance murmured in astonishment. They had feared the core. But Mark's calmness and ingenuity turned danger into progress. By late afternoon, the core was almost fully restored. Only one final section remained, where 3 pipes converged in an almost impossible knot. Mark knelt and examined the conduits carefully. He could feel the energy through his fingertips, subtle vibrations that indicated the right path. Unlike the Thaurians, who relied on formulas and tradition, Mark trusted observation and intuition. He connected the pipe he felt was correct. Holding his breath, a surge of energy flowed through the network, pulsing steadily, illuminating the core like a heartbeat brought to life. The Thaurians gasped and stepped back, awe written on every face. They had doubted, feared, and hesitated, but a human mind had solved what they could not. Mark stood, breathing heavily, sweat on his forehead. The city above pulsed with light and energy, fully restored for the first time since the quake. The Thaurian leader approached, eyes wide with admiration. "Human, you have done what our engineers could not." Your insight, patience, and action have restored the network. You are remarkable." Mark smiled, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He had faced uncertainty, danger, and complexity, yet human ingenuity had prevailed. He understood that humans were not the strongest, fastest, or most numerous species, but their ability to observe, think, and adapt allowed them to make a difference anywhere in the universe. That night, as Mark rested in his quarters, he reflected on the day. Pipes laid, energy flowing, and respect earned, but he knew tomorrow would bring more challenges. The core was restored, but maintenance, unforeseen problems, and further exploration of the network awaited. Still, he slept with a sense of accomplishment. Humans. Even one human could impact worlds far from Earth, and in that quiet moment, listening to the steady hum of Varelia's energy beneath him, Mark realized something profound. It was never about which pipe, at least not entirely. It was about patience, observation, reasoning, and courage, the human qualities that turned uncertainty into triumph. The cold wind of the alien planet whipped against the thin hull of the exploration shuttle. Its engines hummed a steady rhythm. But to Lian, the human pilot, the noise was background to the tension in his chest. He had been sent to chart this world, an unclaimed system on the edge of explored space. Yet, from the moment he stepped onto the rocky surface, he felt a strange sensation and energy here that seemed to notice him. As if the planet itself could sense that he was different, he took a cautious step forward. The terrain was jagged, with sharp cliffs rising like the spines of sleeping beasts. The sky glowed with a strange amber hue, casting shadows that made the rocks seem alive. Leon adjusted his gloves and checked the scanner. The readings were off the charts, nothing like the data from other planets he had visited. The life forms were unlike anything he had seen, tall, bioluminescent beings, moving gracefully over the rocks. Their forms were elegant, almost beautiful, but their eyes, glowing with pale silver light, betrayed a predator's intelligence. Leon exhaled slowly. "Just keep calm," he muttered to himself. "They might not even notice me if I stay low." But the creatures were already aware. One of them approached, its limbs bending in ways that seemed impossible. It stopped a few meters away and tilted its head, studying him. Leon felt a strange warmth in his chest, like an invisible pressure pushing at him. He tensed instinctively. The creature touched a small crystal in its chest, and instantly the air shimmered around Leon. He felt a force pressing against his body, like a wave of energy that sought to probe his mind. Other explorers, aliens who had come to this system before, had reportedly collapsed under this test. Most could not survive the mental probe. The energy was too intense, their minds too fragile. But Leon, human, stubborn, unyielding, did not falter. The pressure hit him like a tidal wave, but his mind anchored itself in his own body. He could feel the probe pushing at his thoughts, trying to break him, and he smiled. There was something almost thrilling about it. Humans were adaptable in ways aliens rarely understood. The creature stepped closer, its glowing eyes fixed on him. "Impossible," it whispered in a strange language, which the translator in his suit rendered roughly, "No being could withstand the test. Unless you are." Human Leon straightened his back. "I guess that answers your question," he said lightly, though his body was buzzing with adrenaline. The energy around him slowly receded. The alien gave a low, humming sound, a noise somewhere between astonishment and reverence. It stepped back, almost cautiously, as though it had seen something it was not supposed to, from behind a ridge. Other aliens emerged, forming a semicircle around him. They were elegant, with long limbs and translucent skin that shimmered in the strange light. Their leader, taller than the rest, moved forward with careful steps. Its crystal chest pulsed as it regarded him. "You are different," the leader said. Its voice resonated inside Leon's skull, though it spoke no words aloud. "Your mind, your body, resistant. We have never encountered a being who could endure what you just faced." Leon swallowed. He knew he could not show fear, not now. Humans were always underestimated. That was the advantage he carried everywhere, Aliens often assumed superiority. Until it was too late. "I'm just doing what humans do," he replied. His voice was steady, even calm. "We adapt. We survive. We endure." The leader's chest, crystal, pulsed faster. Around him, the other aliens shifted uneasily. Clearly, they were unaccustomed to a creature surviving what should have been fatal. Leanne could almost feel their confusion as a physical weight in the air. "You must come with us," the leader finally said. "Your presence is unprecedented. We must study you." Leanne considered it. Resistance could mean hostility, but so far, they had not attacked him. In fact, their behavior suggested caution, even respect. And being studied by aliens could provide valuable intelligence. He nodded. "All right, I'll cooperate for now. But understand this. I'm not weak, and I'm not afraid." The aliens seemed to absorb his words, their glowing eyes widening as if trying to comprehend the meaning. One of the smaller ones reached out, brushing his arm with a tentacle-like limb. The contact was warm, almost comforting, but again, a strange pressure radiated from it. Leanne held still, letting them examine him without flinching. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange in this energy field. They moved him through jagged corridors of rock and crystalline formations. The walls hummed with energy, and the alien's presence made the air vibrate faintly. Everywhere Leanne went, the pressure seemed to test him in small ways. Other species would have faltered at the first touch, but humans, Leanne realized, had an incredible tolerance. Finally, they reached a chamber deep inside the cliffs. The walls glowed with embedded crystals that pulsed in rhythm with the alien's energy. It was a throne room, or what seemed like one. The leader motioned for him to stand in the center. "You have passed the first test," the leader said, its voice echoing. "Few beings could endure what you did outside. But here the next stage begins. It will probe deeper into your spirit, your resolve." Leanne's eyes narrowed. Another test? He had survived the first one, and he knew humans were capable of far more than other species imagined. "I'm ready," he said. A wave of energy surged from the leader, surrounding Leanne. He felt the pressure intensify, seeking his thoughts, memories, his very sense of self. It was overwhelming, but he didn't panic. Humans had learned to endure impossible odds, to survive against creatures far stronger, faster, and smarter. He dug into that instinct now, feeling the energy lash at him. But refusing to break, the chamber seemed to shimmer around him, alien symbols forming in the air. Leon's heart pounded, but he centered himself. Thinking of home, his training, the countless times humans had survived impossible circumstances. And slowly, the energy began to respond, not breaking him, but bending around him. The leader stepped closer. "Incredible. Your mind. Your endurance. Beyond anything we imagined. Humans are. Remarkable." Leanne couldn't help but grin. "Told you? You just don't underestimate humans enough." The aliens looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. Leon sensed their respect, growing even in the midst of their confusion. He realized something important. Humans were not just surviving. They were rewriting expectations, challenging assumptions about what was possible. The chamber door opened, revealing a vast observation deck. Stars glittered in the alien sky, unlike any sky he had seen. "We have much to learn from you," the leader said. "And perhaps you have much to teach us too." Leanne took a deep breath, gazing out at the alien world. "Let's start with that," he said. His mind raced with ideas, strategies, and possibilities. Humans had always thrived by adapting, by thinking differently, by enduring. And now, in the heart of an alien world, he realized that perhaps this was just the beginning, as the aliens guided him deeper into their civilization. He noticed subtle changes in their behavior. They hesitated when near him, touched objects carefully as though afraid he would endure where others could not, and watched him with a mixture of awe and caution. Leanne felt the weight of their curiosity and knew one thing for certain. Being human was more than survival. It was power they could not comprehend, and as he stepped further into their world, A slow smile spread across his face. This was only the first day. There were challenges ahead, yes, but humans had a way of turning challenges into advantages. And Lian, human to his core, was ready to prove that no creature, no matter how advanced, could withstand what humans could endure. The first part of his journey had begun. And already, the aliens were learning a truth they had never anticipated. Humans were unlike any species they had encountered. Strong, resilient, and unpredictable. And that unpredictability, that ability to endure the impossible, would change everything.